We've all heard that saying, history is written by the victors. But what if that's not the whole story? What if entire chapters were never even written down in the first place? Today, we're going on a search for those missing pieces, the lost civilizations and the destroyed knowledge that make up history's missing chapters.
So let's just start with a really big question. All the history we learn in school, the stories we're told about our past, how much of that is really the whole truth?
And how much of it is just one version of the story? A narrative where maybe the most crucial pages have been ripped out, leaving us with a picture that's, well, far from complete.
I love this quote because it just hits the nail on the head. Is our history the real, actual truth? Or is it more like looking at a broken mirror, a bunch of shards pieced back together into a picture that's just clear enough for us to live with, while we try not to think about all the missing fragments on the floor?
So how do these pages go missing? Well, the most common reason is probably the one you've already guessed. The victors get to write the story. Let's dig into what that actually looks like. Okay, this right here shows the problem perfectly. On one side, you have Rome's version of Carthage, a super detailed history of a supposedly barbaric enemy that we've studied for centuries. And on the other side, Carthage's view of itself, which is just a blank. Almost everything we think we know about them comes from the very people who burned their entire civilization to the ground. Their own words, their side of the story, it's gone, completely erased.
And that gets to a really crucial point. Our collective memory, our history, is never neutral. It's not just a simple recording of what happened. It's always being edited, and you can bet the pen is always in the hand of the people with the power to shape that story. But, sometimes history isn't rewritten. Sometimes it's just lost. Entire civilizations can rise up, build incredible things, and then just vanish, so completely that they fade out of human memory altogether.
Just think about the Olmec. Deep in the jungles of Central America, they left behind these massive, incredible, giant stone heads. We think of them as the mother culture that influenced later groups like the Maya and the Aztec. But that's about all we know. They left no detailed texts, and their entire society just disappeared.
Or how about the Indus Valley Civilization? These people built cities like Mohenjo-Daro with sanitation and drainage systems that were centuries ahead of their time. They even had their own written language. But we have no idea what it says. It's never been deciphered. We can see their words, but we can't hear their voice. Their entire story is locked away.
And this one might be the most shocking of all. The Hittites. Now, this wasn't some small tribe. This was a Bronze Age superpower, an empire that was on the same level as ancient Egypt. They fought in one of history's biggest battles and even signed the world's first ever known peace treaty. And yet, after they collapsed, they were so completely forgotten that for 3,000 years, historians didn't even know they existed.
It just forces you to stop and ask, how is that even possible? How can an entire empire that stood shoulder to shoulder with the great pharaohs of Egypt just get deleted from our collective story? It just shows you how incredibly fragile our memory of the past really is.
And this fragility, it brings us to a whole different kind of loss. Because it's not just entire peoples who can vanish. It's their ideas, their knowledge. Sometimes history isn't just forgotten. It's actively, deliberately destroyed.
See, when you burn a book, when you destroy a library, you're not just getting rid of paper and ink. You are literally erasing a piece of our shared human memory, a piece of our soul. You're destroying the questions our ancestors asked and all the different ways they tried to make sense of the world. The most famous example, of course, is the Library of Alexandria. Now, we'll probably never know the exact number, but some estimates say tens of thousands of scrolls were lost. Just let that number sink in. Over 40,000 unique works of science, philosophy, and history just gone. And the real tragedy is the question that you have to ask next. What was actually in those scrolls? What scientific discoveries? What mind-bending philosophical ideas? What histories of other forgotten peoples were just turned to ash? The thing is, we'll never know.
And look, Alexandria wasn't a one-time thing. When the Spanish came to the Americas, they found the Maya, a civilization with a deep, rich written tradition. They had thousands of books, called codices, that detailed their history, their science, their entire worldview. The conquistadors thought they were the work of the devil and burned almost all of them. Out of an entire civilization's library, only 4 are known to have survived, an entire culture's memory deliberately wiped out.
So, after all that, where does this leave us? When you start to put all these pieces together, or I guess notice all the missing pieces, you have to face a pretty unsettling truth about our past.
The history we have, it's not some perfect, complete encyclopedia. It's really more like a patchwork map, one that's been stitched together from the few scraps that managed to survive. It's a map with entire continents of human experience just missing.
So to just quickly recap, history disappears in a lot of ways, right? It's written by the victors, it's wiped out by disasters, it's burned to the ground by conquerors, and sometimes it just quietly fades away with time, until there's nothing left at all.
And that brings us to the final, lingering question. If our collective memory is this broken, this incomplete, and this easy to manipulate, what does that mean for the stories we've been told our whole lives? What should we believe? And maybe the more important question is, how do we start searching for all the pieces that are still missing?